You were talking about, locker rooms and, watching people get ready, whether they're getting a tape job or tying their shoes up. And I remember being in the locker room at the old Chicago arena before the United Center. So this was in one of the first championship series Michael was in. And so it was a super important game. We drive on in. And so I go back in the locker room and Michael's getting his foot attended to. He had kind of an abscess or kind of something infected on one of his toes, and so they were working on his. And while he was sitting there, literally 2 hours before he was going to be playing the game, they handed him an envelope, and he went through all these tickets, and he had a list of names, and he had a stack of tickets, and then a stack of envelopes, and he went through, read each name, chose the seat, put it in the envelope, and then handed it to an assistant. And I probably had, in the NBA, as you probably well know, you usually get about 4 seats or tickets per game. Well, he had to purchase like 40 of them because he had so many friends and family, it's playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like watching him do this right before he was going to get put on his sneakers and go on out. And I said, I'm surprised you don't have somebody else do that for you. And he goes, nope. I'll tell you what, Tinker, it's really important that if somebody gets a seat that they don't like, or they think that they should have gotten a better seat, then I want them to come and talk to me personally about it, because I am the one. I'm not going to put that responsibility on anybody else. And I just thought that was to me, that said a lot about his character and his ability to be a leader and take responsibility. And he was picking the seats for everyone on that list. And wow. If somebody didn't like it, he said they can call me up and say, hey, next time, can I get a better seat or whatever, And so I've never been around an all-star athlete. I've never seen an all-star athlete of his level do that. So it was a really, it was a lesson for me in that you're never too big or famous or fancy to not do the work and to not be responsible. And so it was very cool. It was really cool.
Yeah. I think that tells a lot about, his character and his compassion. And then also doing it 2 hours, prior to tip-off is a pretty big deal too. But I think one thing we've learned from Michael is that, he can do whatever he wants before tip-off, and he'll still be ready to go.
You're right. Yeah, there are a lot of people that have to go into lockdown, right, for an hour or two before a game, and you can't talk to him. And he wasn't even like he. Once he got on the court, he clicked in, but otherwise he was just like normal.
Yeah,
it was really cool, because I've been around a lot of real superstitious athletes or athletes that need to go into this, ceremonial pre-stage, whatever it is, to get ready and go through all these. And he didn't need to do that. He was so confident in himself that all of that stuff was going to click in just when he needed it to. So it was great. Super cool.
And while we're still talking about Michael Jordan, you actually said that if you had to pick your favorite Jordan shoe, it would be the Jordan 11. Because it was
I said that over and over.
It was during a time, obviously, where Michael had decided to pursue his career in baseball, and Nike pretty much told you, "Hey, Tinker, you can stop making the shoes. Jordan's not playing basketball anymore."
Yeah,
but for some reason,
right.
Yeah, but for some reason, something clicked with you, and you said, "No, I want to keep going with this line. I feel like he'll be back," and you made an effort to work with inside of Jordan's baseball schedule to continue to collaborate with him on new ideas. What made you want to stick with that?
Well, I just, first of all, there were two things. If he never played another game, I felt he was already still famous enough that people will still want one of his shoes. That was number one. But number two is like, you know what? He's not going to stay retired. He's the best basketball player there ever was, and nobody quits like that. I mean, I can only think of one person, Jim Brown, maybe Deion Sanders. But Jim Brown, there very rarely does anybody quit when they're on top like that. So anyway, I'm like, and Nike's like, well, you know, we don't think we can sell these expensive basketball shoes if he's not playing. And I said, I'm going to do it anyway. And people got pretty upset because it costs a lot of money to develop these shoes. And I just basically said, no, I'm going to keep doing it. And you know, and so I had to track him down. You know, in a minor league ballpark in Birmingham, Alabama, or somewhere in Phoenix, Arizona, or whatever. I mean, I had to go to some out of the way places to just show him the progress because you know he knew I was working on it, and he got so excited about it. I like to think that that's one of the reasons he unretired. But I'm sure that's not the case. But anyway, he. So when I gave him his first, so he unretires. But I didn't give him those shoes right away because we were trying to get him to wear the previous shoe and blah blah blah. So I gave him 3 pairs to practice in. I said, don't wear these in a game because we can't sell these yet. We have not even made a production run yet. Yeah. Because Nike doesn't even want to sell the shoe per se. And and sure enough, as soon as I gave it was in the playoffs. Sure enough, I didn't go to the game, but I was watching the game on TV, and in the warm-ups, there's Ahmad Rashad standing there with the shoe talking about it.
But today, he will sport a brand new pair of shoes. They are black patent leather. They are very stylish. The only one thing is they are a little bit out of style because on the back of them, they have number 45. So if he's not wearing his old shoes, I guess there's nothing else that I could do but take his old shoes home. Marv?
Yes. Ahmad sporting the Cotton Club look there.
The patent leather and the clear outsole and all the, you know, the different bells and whistles and the carbon fiber but mostly it was that patent leather that everybody was like, we can't believe that you put that anyway. And there's Michael warming up, and you know, and I about fell off the couch, you know, because I'm like, oh man, people are going to be so pissed because they won't be able to get those shoes. And but really, you know what, he was so smart that he understood that even if it was going to be it was basically we couldn't deliver the shoes to the stores for about 3 or 4 months. So roughly like the off, you know, kind of the length of an off season. And so when the shoes did finally get announced, a release date announced, it still probably is the record for the lines around the malls and around the stores and around the blocks to try and get in and get a pair. And unfortunately, there was some violence involved in it, so that kind of accompanied that shoe for a little while. But the reality is that shoe turned out to be maybe the most provocative and interesting one of the whole bunch. And for me, I like it the most, partly because of the design, but partly because I went against the grain, you know, and stood up and took a risk and worked on the shoe, even though, you know, I just believed in Michael. I thought, you know, I just believed it was all going to work. And so sometimes the lesson there is if you really believe strongly enough in something, you can go against the grain. And if you have the courage to go against the grain, sometimes it works out. So now, you know, the Jordan 11 gets retroed every year, right around the holidays, and maybe some other colors pop up during the year, and it just is the one shoe that just never loses its momentum. It's just amazing. So
I think that's something people can take and add into their own lives is go against the grain when you feel, you know, comfortable and powerful about it. And I think Michael went against the grain by not taking your advice to not wear the shoes, because
very true.
He felt like he felt strongly about these shoes, and he said, you know what, I know what Tinker said, but I got to wear these anyway. And just like you went against the grain with the design, so it ultimately all worked out.
Yeah. It all worked out. It all worked out, and people are still excited about those shoes even after all these years. So it's pretty amazing.
I love it. Now, Tinker, being the amazing designer that you are, you've had the opportunity to come across many prominent figures and probably create many memorable experiences. Is there an untold story that you can tell us, whether it be between you and Nike, you and MJ, or anybody that my audience and I might find funny? Or
oh gosh, I have so many stories. I'll tell you a tennis story. Just because we'll jump out of basketball for a second. I remember going to I was asked to design a new tennis shoe for Roger Federer when he was, setting records and winning lots of tournaments, and yet he wasn't real happy with the tennis shoes that he had, and so they said, we'd like for you to go visit and with him. And so I went to the French Open, watched him play, and he actually lost that match. But we had a meeting set up in his hotel for after the match, and I had just gotten my new the first iPad, one of the first iPads, and we meet in his hotel, and I told him, I said, look, I know you may not be in the best mood. He goes, no, it's all right. It's all right. You win some, you lose some, let's just talk. He was a really cool guy. And so we sat in a corner of the lobby, actually kind of out of the way. And while we were talking, he didn't realize it. I had my iPad out, and instead of taking notes on it, I was listening to him, and we were having a conversation, and I designed the whole shoe in the hour-long conversation.
Wow.
So at the end of the conversation, he's about ready to get up and go up to his room, and I'm about ready to take off. And I said, wait a second. And I turn the iPad around, and he sees this shoe. And he was, at that moment, he and I became like simpatico, like we were like buddies, because he saw that I could listen and quickly synthesize everything that he wanted in a shoe and draw it up, and it had a certain look that he liked. Anyway, it was just really it was a really cool experience because it was he was unhappy, and so it made him happy, and we worked together for like 7 years after that, kind of working on various projects, including I designed some of his apparel for Wimbledon, but anyway, we became very good friends, and I thought that was really a fun and untold story. I'm not so sure I even told the story before, but since you asked, I thought I'd throw one in there that was quite different, and so it's partly getting into a mode where someone trusts you is being respectful and listening, and then also delivering. And I did all of those things in the 1 hour, and he's like, "Dang, let's do this."
Yeah.
So that was cool. That was a fun experience, even though again he had just lost, and he could have been in a bad mood, but no, he was fine. And so that. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget jumping. Then I jumped on the subway and went back to my hotel, and immediately was able to text or email that design to everybody at Nike that needed it, like all the technicians, the marketing people, and they're like, "What? did you do? What did you? And I'm in my message to like must have been 20 different people got the design that as soon as I got back to my hotel, and they were like, "What? When did you do this?" I said, "Well, I had the meeting and I just designed it during the meeting." And everybody's like, "What?"
No big deal.
That was the first iPad shoe design because it was brand new, and I had a program called Sketchbook Pro. I could just draw on the glass with a stylus. It was the first, kind of, I guess, the first shoe done like that. So now everybody does that. So yeah.
Well, I think that's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that with us, especially to know not only did you just come up with the design after, hearing everything that he was saying throughout the conversation, but you finished the design within that hour conversation.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
And it's important for athletes, I think, to be able to link what they've said to you and then link it back to the final finished product or the design. And in his case, he had just told me all this stuff, and I had just responded. Therefore, he could see the relationships to our conversation and the design, and it just worked like a charm. So, not everybody can do that. I mean, you have to be super confident because you don't want to throw some garbage up there either in an hour. So, so anyway, good experience. A story that I don't think I've told that story much.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm sure he appreciated that transparency and the fact that you were able to listen and turn it into a unique design. So that's really cool. While we're talking about designs, I know that you like to ride motorcycles, and I know that if you said that if you were able to design something else other than shoes, it would be a motorcycle or it would be a car. So I've seen videos of you actually riding around on your motorcycle, and you look like a really cool guy. You look cooler than me. You know what I mean? Are those motorcycles?
I wouldn't go that far.
No, you're cool, man. You look like a cool cat, man. I'm trying to get on your level.
Well, I try to do cool stuff. I don't know if I'm a cool guy, but I'm trying to do cool stuff. But motorcycles are fun.
I like it. And now, are those motorcycles that you ride around, are those the ones that you design, or have you had the opportunity to design your own?
No. Normally, I might do a little bit of modification to one, but I did just finish up designing with a collaborator who knows how to build motorcycles, a custom motorcycle. It's probably, I don't know if it'll go into production, but it'll definitely go into custom motorcycle shows. So,
okay.
So I did finally get to do one that someone else is building for real from scratch, from ground up. So that was fun.
Very cool. Well, I'll be on the lookout for that in case it does.
Yeah, it's called, the brand is called Zero, and it's an electric, but it's a high performance 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds kind of a motorcycle. So it's a high performance motorcycle. So yeah, at some point you might see some media on that. I'll see.
Might see some. All right. I'm gonna stay tuned for sure. Now, Tinker, I'll take it back to sneakers for a little bit. Being a basketball player, I know when it comes to sneakers, obviously the first thing is comfort. Does it feel good on my foot? And the second thing is, who's the person behind the shoe? And does that person inspire me? And do I look up to that person? And I know for me, 3 guys in particular: Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Stephen Curry. I know Stephen Curry's not with Nike, but he's one guy. I love wearing his shoes, and I love wearing Kobe's shoes, and I also love wearing Michael's shoes. But I bring this up because you have people out there who purchase shoes because they actually want to wear them, whether it's for sports or whether it's to walk around. But I think lately in this new market that we're experiencing, we're seeing a lot of people purchasing shoes just so they can flip them and sell them back for double the price. So I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on that? And do you ever see the supply and demand model changing, so that way Nike distributes more amounts of shoes for those people who truly want the shoes, rather than the people that are just flipping the shoes?
Yeah, I think, that's a really good question. I'm not sure anyone's ever asked that question quite like that, because it is problematic, and because we're trying to design products that work for real players, for real athletes. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's style involved, but at the root of almost all of our designs, there's some kind of performance level. And we do have a sportswear department, and they come up with shoes as well, and I've done some of them but I think it's not our soul. It's not who we are. It's not what we talk about. What we talk about is performance for athletes, the greatest athletes in the world, and also the everyday athlete, everybody and everybody in between. So I think it is kind of a bummer, I guess, when people look at the design as a commodity or as a way to make a profit. And but I don't really judge those people. Like, I mean, because I'll sign, people, if my signature's on a shoe, then I guess the price goes up a little bit. Yeah. But the reality is that I'll, even if I suspect that a person is a reseller, I'll still sign it. And I'm not trying to judge anyone, but I think most people at Nike would prefer the people that actually get a hold of the shoes and use them and wear them and not just trade them and sell them and stuff like that. But the world has changed, and there's obviously there are some people who are really good at finding rare shoes and can make a profit and do things like that. And mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to judge those people. It's just part of the way the world has changed. So. So I don't spend too much time, upset about it at all.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely the world changing, the sneaker market changing. Obviously, I think one thing that I've done to cope with it, I've just I know I brought this question up because most recently I was trying to get the Kobe Grinches, which we're releasing on Christmas Eve, and I was hoping to wear them for this season, but it was like I did everything right. You get to the app. Multiple apps, and you get on right on time, and it's like no matter what, it's like in 2 seconds they say you didn't even have a shot. Yeah. So I'm kind of like, what's the point? But I think nowadays what I've done to combat that is just try to reach out to the people that I know who are well connected within the industry who can help out through that way. But I know that's kind of what brought the question to me. So
yeah, well, I mean, you're not alone in that. People get frustrated because they can't get them through the supposedly straightforward process. And so, yeah, we get a lot of calls. I get a lot of calls. Can you help me out? Because I stood in line, and it could be, could be a rare shoe. One of the most sought after series of shoes are all the Jordans we do for the University of Oregon football team, where we do limited edition, and we do like 150 pairs or maybe 200 pairs. Wow. And so those are really rare, and they're and I'll get people calling me up. It could be somebody like an all-star, NBA all-star. I won't say names, mm-hmm. But it'll be like an NBA all-star will call me up and go, can you a lot of people call me Tinker Hat. Tinker Hat, can you Tinker Hat, can you set me up? Because and they'll start, and I'm like, and I'm like, well, what are you really after? Like, yeah, those latest dope U of O, Oregon Jordans, and I'm like, dude, didn't you go to the University of Texas? yeah, but these are cool, man. Or didn't you go to
exactly
USC or whatever? And and I'm always like kind of like have to kind of fit that in there, and then I'm going, we'll help you get it. We'll help you find it.
That's hilarious, man. That's hilarious.
It's super funny to have a famous multi-millionaire person call you up for a pair of shoes
for a pair of shoes
get, and they're actually shoes from a school they didn't even go to.
It's hard to wrap your mind around it.
Well, yeah. It's just the world's a little. It's about exclusivity, right? And it's also about kind of like you said, the story behind it. So, so anyway, it is what it is.
It is what it is. I love it. Now, Tinker, we often get excited when we hear murmurs about projects that our favorite professionals are working on. But sometimes these projects never see the light of day. I know for me, I'll relate it back to my favorite musical artist. Like if I hear a song leak out from that person, it gets me excited. It makes me feel like maybe an album's coming or maybe a song's going to come.
Sure.
But sometimes it never gets put out and we never hear it. So I want to ask if there's any projects that you have done that have never seen the light of day, and if so, maybe you could name one of them.
Let's see. I have a lot of designs these days don't get made because I've sort of changed my approach. I don't work with athletes as much, just simply because we have a lot of people, a lot of young, really good designers who are working on shoes, and it takes a lot of time to sort of sit down and go through the process. So I'm designing shoes all the time, and I'm kind of using my experience to help me finish off the design. And some of those don't get made because there's not a real vehicle to help promote them, or maybe there's not a spot in the line, or the factory's too full, or whatever. So there are lots of projects like that that didn't used to be the case. Whenever I do something, it was for sure going to get produced. But I remember though one that was kind of a dud. It's called Foot Tent. And it was a shoe that was like a backpacking tent on a midsole. In other words, it didn't touch your foot.
Wow.
It's like a tent.
Wow.
And it was, and I thought, oh, this is the greatest idea. And because how comfortable, what's the most comfortable thing was to be barefoot. But if you could walk around, but with a little bit of cushioning under your foot, but then some protection, but what the protection wasn't touching your foot, wouldn't that be a great idea? Well, it's a great idea in theory, but the shoe was real bulky because it had to have space inside of it, like a tent.
Yeah.
And so that shoe, I think we made like just a couple thousand pairs. They did sell out, but it took a while and nobody really wanted to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. So that shoe is called the Foot Tent. Oddly enough, though, maybe 20 years since, maybe 18 years since that shoe was designed, Comme des Garçons, the fashion brand, mm-hmm. collaborated with Hiroshi Fujiwara, who is a fashion, like a influencer in Japan. And they came up with, they dug through Nike's archives, found the Foot Tent and reissued it with a Comme des Garçons logo on the sock liner. And it was a huge hit.
Wow.
I mean, it's a very expensive shoe, but so I guess in the end it did sort of get out there. But there, those are that's fairly rare when something doesn't actually work out. But that one was like pushing a rock uphill. It was really weird looking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome to hear, and also to hear those innovative ideas. I know to start that question, I basically said that you get excited when you hear about those things that never come to the light of day. And I know with musical artists, my favorite musical artist is Drake. And I actually saw a picture with you and Drake in a room together, hunched over your iPad. And so I want to ask you, one, what were you guys looking at? And two, how would you explain his artistic design?
Well, they were working on a deal and they thought, well, maybe I should be the one to design something for him or with him. And so we had had a meeting at Nike where, and somebody brought a press photographer. There was a photographer taking shots of our meeting. Then I went to visit him in California. He has a place in outside of LA, and I know he's from Toronto. I know he has a place in Toronto. Maybe he's got one in Chicago too. But nonetheless, I visited him a few times, and so there was a buzz out there that I was collaborating with him on a shoe, and yet I don't think even though we were working on one, and I showed him a bunch of different designs. I don't think they actually inked the deal. Maybe, and there was I'm not even sure, but it all kind of fell through. So the design that I was working on for him, Nike released it anyway without his name on it. Or I should say the brand Jordan did.
The Jordan brand,
yeah. So as I understand it, maybe somebody's working with Drake again at Nike, but you know, I had a great time meeting him, and he was a cool guy, and liked his music. I went to a couple of his concerts. I remember one in Atlanta. And what I liked about him is that he was really great about bringing up other lesser known rappers, and so they can perform with him sometimes. And he was trying to help people out a little bit. I really liked that. And one guy had just been a good rapper in the Atlanta area, but wasn't necessarily as famous nationally. And I remember he came out, and Gucci Mane and so he came out. I thought he was awesome, and so I got to meet him afterwards, and you know, it was all cool. It was all great, but I think, you know, sometimes contracts, just like in sports or in music too, things just didn't at the time just didn't work out. So I was excited to work with him because I thought he, you know, was obviously good at writing and performing, and he was just kind of a neat guy. So but it just for whatever reasons didn't work out. So
well, that's great. And sometimes, you know, we as the audience, we love to hear stories like that, you know, whether contracts fell through or not. I think those are things that are very interesting. But I know that his partnership with Nike is still pretty strong, because I know for his upcoming album, you know, he was at the Nike campus.
That's right. They shot on the campus, and so he's always been pretty good about wearing just you know, limited edition Jordans or whatever. I think it was just like I guess, you know, when you collaborate and you design something from scratch, you know, there's royalties and it's more complicated. And I don't know, I guess for whatever reason it didn't work out. So, but I still think he's cool, and it's not like he hated Nike or anything. In fact, as you just mentioned, he's come back around and done some stuff with us. So that's great. And
exactly.
I wish him well. I would like to revisit, you know, doing something with him, but you know, we have so many good designers. You know, I feel like I don't need to be doing everything all the time. So,
well, you may not need to be doing everything all the time, but I'll just add in there that you have a fan over here that would love to see a Tinker Drake collaboration come to light. So if you can, go ahead.
All right. Well, maybe I'll reach out to him and say, hey, you know, there's some people in Chicago.
Yeah.
Very influential and very good looking people, wonderful people. We'd love to see it. So.
I love it. Now, Tinker, in this age of digital, we have seen the way we do things change drastically in the last decade. What changes have you seen in the industry during your time as a designer, and where do you see the industry going in the next 5 years?
Well, that's a great question, because none of us really have a truly reliable crystal ball. But I do think that you know, that sneakers will continue to be an interesting and desirable kind of item to possess or to hunt. I think part of it is the hunt for, interesting things. But I think what you're going to see from us will be more adaptability. We have those shoes that lace themselves, and there's going to be more. The future of shoes is going to be more about accessibility. So like we know so many people that have disabilities or issues around trying to put their shoes on, really cool people that, and so we're trying to design shoes that help them, wear the coolest and latest stuff, but they don't necessarily have to have the dexterity. People with MS and Parkinson's and diabetes and all kinds of maladies they have a hard time getting into cool shoes, and yet they shouldn't be excluded. So I think there'll be more of that kind of thing in the future, so that again, everybody has an opportunity, so we think about that a lot. And then of course the big shift in our business model is online sales. And so if everything is online, and how do you know that they really fit and feel great, right? Yeah. So we're going to have to figure out how to still give people a firsthand experience, even if they buy online. There's going to have to be some new system, so people can touch, feel, try on something. So I think the future will be, us working through that, because the online business is clearly in almost every industry growing exponentially, because people get just Amazon Prime it and set your house in 2 days. So it's crazy. Exactly. And so that's part of what's going to change. I do think that people will still be on the search for those, interesting shoes that speak to them, or maybe have that exclusivity. I don't think that's going to go away. We used to think that, man, this thing's probably not going to last, but it has lasted now for a long time. So I have no reason to think that that's going to go away. So, and then the other thing too is that, we think that athletes, we need to we'd like to get back into working with athletes even more and telling more stories. I think we've gotten away from some of that storytelling. And so maybe you'll see a return to that a little bit more, which would be good.
That'd be great. Yeah. I think as long as you're in the business, I think the future will be great. I know a lot of people say, yeah, Tinker knows how to draw the future. I've seen a lot of celebrities say that. So I think if you're still here in the industry, I think there's good things ahead.
Well, even if I'm not around, I hope some of us are passing along what we know, so that there are other talented young people coming up and who can do the job. But I appreciate the kind words, and I'm going to keep rolling as long as I am upright. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And you just said something great there. You said, as long as people continue to pass down information and knowledge. And I think that's one thing you obviously continue to do. And I've seen you talk about it before, especially in your roles in mentoring and in coaching. You're continuing to pass down everything that you know and the knowledge that you have to aspiring designers. So that's something that goes a long way. So I just want to say that I appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of others do as well, too.
Well, thank you. Again, I had some good mentors in my day, and I feel like that's life is can be meaningless if there isn't a component of passing along what you know and helping other people. And so that's maybe more meaningful than what you've even accomplished. So. So I think that's just sort of, maybe that's, worth talking about, because I don't know that everybody's like that these days. There are a lot of, seemingly selfish people, and I prefer not to try and be that way. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too judgy, but clearly, we're in for some better days as a country, and hopefully better days, with helping each other out. So that'll be, and I also, we're really big on, creating opportunity. And I think the Black Lives Matter thing was really important because it highlighted not just Black Lives Matter, but that all lives matter, right? But the Black Lives Matter thing was a great, poignant and focused, point of view that is really, really critical to our growth as a society. So we're all into that, and at Nike, you can't find anybody that isn't really into that and trying to create opportunities and leadership for people of all kinds, and so those are all worthwhile things, and that's one reason why I'm continuing to work, is I want to help with that transition, help Nike be more diverse, and the more diverse we are, the better we're going to be. And that means diverse at all levels, leadership levels, and down to the folks that are maybe seemingly doing less important things, but everybody's important because they're part of our ecosystem. So exactly. So we want everybody to have opportunity, and it just seems, again, this. We're on the cusp of maybe having a chance to do that as a country, but it also, we can do it in our own lives. So so that's again, it's a little bit preachy, but it's, I think it's still it's important for people to hear that over and over again if they have to. So.
It's real important, and I'm glad you brought it up, actually, because as an African American man myself, obviously with everything happening in 2020 with the riots and the protests because of the racism that we see that still exists and the police brutality that is so blatant, I know that obviously it was the easy thing for every company to put out a statement during that time. That's politically the right thing to do. But to hear you say that Nike is actually doing their due diligence and putting truth to that is what I like to hear. And I've also heard it from other people that I've interviewed as well, saying that their company is truly invested in this, and they're really talking to the people of color that work for their company and how they can be better. So to hear that from you is something that is truly amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Well, it's not hard to be nice. It's not hard to care. It's not that difficult to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And I learned that a long time ago. And I think that's, we need to just put it into practice more and more and more. So there you go.
We're touching on such great points. I just want to bring up one other point before moving on to my last couple of questions. But I know sometimes people say, oh, Tinker, man, you're lucky, man. You got Michael Jordan. You got to work with Michael Jordan, and you got to do his whole Jordan line. But you had a great response to that, which was even when you're given, an opportunity, you still have to leverage and maximize those opportunities.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to speak on that because, for the people that hear this, I want them to learn these things from you and people like you. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, I feel fortunate that I got paired up with Michael. And there's some truth to being in the right place at the right time, but you still have to. If I had screwed up that very first Jordan 3, I mean, it would have been over, right? I wouldn't, or if I hadn't clicked with him, or if I hadn't worked so hard to make sure that those early shoes were truly innovative in making him a better player, but also they were collaborative, and he could talk into a microphone about about his own involvement, and all of those things. That is part of leveraging the moment, and we can all be given some good fortune. But it doesn't last if you don't take care of business and do things right. So I do appreciate the question, because I've heard that too. Yeah, oh, dude's lucky, man. Anybody could have done that, and if they'd been with Michael Jordan, and I'm try not to get angry about those kinds of comments because I see them every once in a while. But there's a lot of there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into all of the stuff that we do, that we all try to do and do well. So I personally feel good about it. So yeah, I guess that's important.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, people are putting respect on your name, because I know how hard it is to do what you do, and especially at the level that you do it. Well, that concludes this episode of JB & Co. Tinker, I appreciate you joining us and sharing knowledge with us and allowing us to highlight everything you've done throughout your career. We appreciate it. I know I wanted to show you these because these are my favorite. Jordan 5s, Raging Bulls. So I just wanted to make sure you saw this. These are my favorite ones.
That's your size, right?
That's my size too. Yep.
Are you a 13 or what?
I'm a 12 and a half or a 13. I could do either.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate it, Jared. You've been a great, it's been great fun talking to you. You obviously, after your playing days are over, you got another career on your hands right there, you know, with that microphone. So good luck with all of that. And I wish you the best of luck, though, in continuing to play the game. So hang in there. I hope to see great things from you. Yeah, and I'm sure we will.
Thank you so much, Tinker. I appreciate that. And to my audience, thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the episode, and we'll see you next time.